The Maine State Chamber hosted a forum today about the future of PFAS in the state. PFAS are a series of man-made chemicals that exist in many household products like non-stick cookware and cleaning supplies. They're often referred to as forever chemicals because of how slowly they break down, causing them to go into water and soil. Maine was one of the first states in the country to implement PFAS laws, requiring businesses to report all products that have intentional PFAS. This law extends further, banning certain items containing PFAS from being sold in the state beginning in 2030. Beyond the environmental concerns, PFAS has legitimate uses in medicine, aviation, and other industries. Due to the nuanced nature of PFAS, Maine State Chamber President Patrick Woodcock says it's critical to include professionals in an array of industries to voice how the PFAS law will affect them.
This is emerging so quickly across the country, across the globe. The European Union is looking at this. What we're trying to bring is some thought leadership to Maine, see if there's some best practices that we can apply, improve Maine's law, address the pollution in the most cost-effective way, and also protect the industries that are employing and investing in our state.
Woodcock says the panel forums are just the beginning of discussions surrounding PFAS. There will be a work session tomorrow to further the conversation.